Alright y'all, welcome back to another Destiny 2 video. Today, like I said, we got a Strand Warlock build. This is specifically for endgame. I know why the hell are you using Strand? You should be using Phoenix Protocol, and that's fine. We're gonna get into that, okay? Just wait. I know sometimes it gets boring using Well of Radiance, even though that is the best subclass for Warlock, but you want to switch it up, then we want to use Strand, and Strand Warlock is absolutely amazing. It's so much fun ever since it first came out. You could pair it with tons of exotics, especially some of those Weapons of Sorrows, aka the Thorn, the Osteostriga, and I believe it works with the Necrochasm as well. You can make some pretty nasty builds using those specifically. But today we're going to be taking just a look at a build that you can use for endgame, just to help you out with the content a little bit more. This build is very usable for Grandmasters, as well as Master Raids, as well as the Lost Sectors. I use this build all the time for Lost Sectors to get it done very easy. And then if I'm doing like a GM or something, occasionally I would use this build, but most of the time I'm using Well of Radiance, the Phoenix Protocol build. If you do want to see a video on that, let me know in the comment section below. With that being said and done, if you guys do end up enjoying today's video, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, guys. We're almost to 700 subscribers on the channel. We might hit it by the time this video comes out, who knows. Share this video with your friends so other people can see this build, and like always, the dim links will be down below in the description for you guys to immediately click on and apply this build for yourself so that you can hop straight into it and test it out. But for those of you that are going to watch along with me, let's hop right into it. So like always with our builds, the first thing that we always take a look at is the subclass tree in itself, and be sure to follow along with me here. I'm going to be going pretty slow. We're going to take a look at the abilities, the aspects, as well as the fragments. So here we go. The first ability I'm using is Healing Rift. Healing Rift is absolutely a necessity for Warlocks. You know, free health in case you get into a situation where you might end up dying, and you're immediately regenerating HP so that you can get straight back into the fight. Burst Glide, absolutely the best movement ability for Warlocks, my personal favorite, especially in PVE as well as PvP. Absolutely a must-have. The other jumps are fine as well, but this is just my recommended that you can go with because it helps a lot. For Warlock melee, we have the Arcane Needle, the only Strand melee for the Warlocks. Absolutely a beast of a melee because you get 3 charges instead of just 1, and when you activate them and you chain them, you unravel targets, and when you unravel targets, they turn into tangles. And then for my grenade, I'm using the Shackle Grenade because when you throw it, it immediately suspends targets all around it. It'll hold them up in the air. You can immediately just get free damage off of them without them having to hit you. It's absolutely very good, especially when it comes to using this build that we're about to get right into. For the first aspect for the Warlock, we're using the brand new Strand aspect right here. It's called the Wanderer. Essentially, the tangles will be completely different. Normally, a tangle, when you throw it at an enemy, it detonates and it causes, you know, some moderate damage, but this one changes the tangles specifically because when you throw it, it attaches to targets and it creates a suspending burst. And we're going for more of a suspending targets build. Since we're going to be creating a lot of tangles, we're going to be suspending targets. We're going to be able to hold them up in the air a little bit more so that we get free damage and just be able to blast through some of the content. But you guys can see what the description on exactly what this does. Be sure to have this on. For the second aspect, I am using the Weaver's Call just because when I cast my Rift, it's going to create threadlings, and since with the first aspect here, threadling final blows create a tangle. When the threadling gets a kill on some of these enemies, it's going to create a guaranteed tangle, which means it's going to create a tangle in a certain area wherever the enemies are at, and that's essentially what we want, is to just create a tangle so that we can toss them and be sure to, you know, suspend the targets and do the free damage that we want to get. But if you do not want to run this specifically, you can swap that out for maybe Weave Walk, depending on if you can't survive as much, or you could definitely swap that out for Mind Spun Invocation. I would probably go with Mind Spun Invocation, but be sure to try it out with Weaver's Call just to see exactly if it works for you. But then again, you can switch whenever you feel like it. Now, let's move on to the fragments. For the first Strand fragment, I have the Thread of Transmutation, where if we have Woven Mail, our weapon final blows create a tangle. And this is a guaranteed tangle because as soon as Woven Mail comes up, and if you have Woven Mail for a long period of time, you will create a guaranteed tangle until the cooldown is reduced or till the cooldown goes down. I believe the cooldown is like 8 seconds or something like that until you'll be able to create another tangle. Be sure to have this on because you'll get Woven Mail once we get into the other fragments, and it's pretty much just a guaranteed way to make tons and tons of tangles if you're very efficient enough. And then for our second fragment, we're using the Thread of Generations, where dealing damage generates grenade energy. This is absolutely a must-have. It does reduce your discipline by 10, which is not really much of a big deal because essentially you're going to be dealing damage to enemies, and since some of these enemies are going to be a little bit tanky, you know, it overwrites that, and we'll just get some more grenade energy, and it's just free energy just for dealing damage, which is an absolutely must-have. And then for our third fragment, we're using the Thread of Wisdom. We're defeating suspended targets to create 10 orbs of power. Since we're going to be suspending targets and we're going to kill them, orbs of power, boom, You know what I mean? Free orbs of power, and we love orbs of power. So let's move on to the fourth fragment. And then moving on right here for our fourth fragment, we're using the thread of warding. We're picking up an orb of power, grants us woven mail. Since we're going to defeat suspended targets, that gives us orbs of power. We pick it up, we get woven mail, and when we get woven mail, boom, weapon final blows. When you have woven mail, creates a tangle, and you can see the synergy essentially in all the fragments right here. So now we're going to get into the armor mods as well as the artifacts. So I'll see you guys there. Let's go. So here we are on the mod customization. We're going to take a look at the artifact mods first, and then we're going to get into the class armor as well as the weapons, and then that will be the end of the video. I have this artifact specifically right here where strand weapon final blows have a chance to generate a tangle. Now this is mostly for, like I said earlier in the video, this build works for endgame as well as, you know, regular casual content. If I'm not trying to use weapons specifically for champions, I have this on because I like to use this build with the Quicksilver Storm exotic. It works absolutely fantastic with this. If you don't want to use Quicksilver Storm, you want to use something else strand related, you can do that. This artifact perk will definitely help with that, so be sure to have this on. This right here specifically, be sure to have this on as well, because if you're playing with teammates and they pick up your tangle and they throw them, you get reduced cooldown for your tangle. It drops it by 5 seconds, which means you'll be able to create tangles a lot more often. And then for my artifact perk right here, this is the monochromatic maestro. Free damage for 5 seconds if you're using weapons that match the subclass. Absolutely fantastic. Like I said, this is specifically for, you know, the casual stuff. You can use this, but for endgame, you know, you won't be using stuff that will match the same subclass if you're using, like, you know, a strand weapon. But if you are, be sure to have this on. I mean, it's just free 10% damage in. And then for my final artifact perk, I'm using the elemental munitions, where combatant final blows with tangles or elemental orbs have a chance to drop special or heavy ammo. Must have, because if you kill enemies with tangles, that's free ammo that drops for you, and can't say no free ammo as well. So now let's move on to the armor mods. So for my helmet, I have on a recovery mod, and I'm using a hands-on for I gain bonus super energy on melee kills. I'm using double of that. I have both of these on essentially because of my melee. I'm using the necrotic grips. Necrotic grips with this build is absolutely fantastic because you get free poison tick damage, and when you kill the enemies after they're poisoned, it spreads that poison to nearby enemies. That is the main reason why I have double hands-on, so be sure to put this on. And then now we're going to move into our gauntlets, because here I'm using a recovery mod, and I have double impact induction as well as focusing strike. Impact inductions because when I cause damage with my melee attack, I reduce my grenade cooldown. I believe it also stacks with the poison ticks from the necrotic grips, so you'll be able to get your grenade a lot more often using 2 of these. And then focusing strike because grants class ability energy when I cause damage with a melee attack, which means I'll be able to deploy threatenings a little bit more quicker and often. And then moving on to the chest armor, I have a recuv mod, I have concussive damper, and I'm using charged up. You could definitely take off charged up and put on like another resistance mod, maybe sniper or melee damage resistance. That absolutely works fantastic. Just, you definitely want to be more tankier. This build essentially doesn't have healing like at all besides just rift, so you're gonna have to play a little bit more careful when you're using this build, especially in those higher end game contents. And then moving on to my leg armor, I have on a recovery mod. I have on strand weapon surge just for an increase in strand weapon damage, like I said earlier. And now I'm using double invigoration, where it reduces my melee cooldown each time I pick up an orb of power. And since when we suspend targets and defeat them, it creates an orb of power, hence it will reduce my melee cooldown because of invigoration. And then moving on to my warlock bond, I have on a discipline mod as well as a recovery force mod. This is artifice armor. And then I'm using the outreach because it reduces my melee cooldown when I use my class ability, you know, reduce that cooldown, reduce that. Then I have on powerful attraction, and then I'm using utility kickstart. So now we're here on the weapons, and I'm gonna say a couple things just so you guys could be on track with me. These weapons are definitely not something that you have to be using. You could definitely swap it out depending on the type of content that you're doing. I was using this specific weapon set right here because I was doing the Grandmaster for last week, which was the heist battleground on the moon. There was tons and tons of barriers as well as unstoppable champions, and just using this essentially right here helped me completely clear that out without no trouble. Be sure to swap some of the weapons out depending on the type of content you're doing so that you can be more efficient and, you know, help out your team and hopefully be able to complete that content and get it done. So right now for me, I had the Wishender on for, you know, the intrinsic barrier champions. I had on Cartesian coordinate. You don't have to use this specifically. This is just mostly for unstoppable champions. And then Apex Predator because construction, bait and switch, as well as wild spec. Absolutely fantastic to have on. But like I said, swap the weapons depending on the content that you're doing, and you should be fine. And with that all said and being done, that brings us to the end of today's video. If you guys did enjoy the build and if you found it helpful, please let me know in the comment section below. Please be sure to share some of your builds in the comment section below and talk about what you have going on. All that feedback, I will be reading all the comments. I always read all the comments, and I will be replying to some of you out there. Be sure to share this video out with some of your friends so that you can apply this build to their loadouts and you guys could crush some of the content in Destiny 2 together. Just want to say, by the time this video comes out, hopefully we've hit 700 subscribers and we're pushing on towards that 1,000. Once we hit 1,000, I'm going to do a huge giveaway for the channel. Give back to the people that supported me in my journey in YouTube. You guys are absolutely the best. Fantastic. I love every single one of you guys. And I will see you guys in my next build video, which is coming up pretty soon. Spoiler alert for Titans. You guys are going to like it. And I'm out. Peace.